Okay, welcome everyone to this exciting fireside chat. Today we have the pleasure of speaking with Devin Noonan, the Chief Revenue Officer at Bedrock, the world's leading supplier management technology and services provider. With over a decade in sales and business development, Devin has remarkable track record of driving growth, building strategic partnerships, and delivering exceptional results. We're excited to have you join us today at the AI Revenue Summit, Devin.
Thanks so much for having me, Jenny.
Yeah, so let's get into it. I know we have some questions really around sales, around revenue. The first one I kind of wanted to ask you is what role does AI play in personalization, in personalizing customer interactions at scale, and how has that affected the overall sales process?
Yeah, so I think it's been a steady evolution, and obviously now with OpenAI and ChatGPT and the application of Gen AI really across a variety of different tools, it gives you a unique opportunity to really start hyper targeting, right, your audience. So when we think of personalization, I'll give you an actual use case. One of the firms that we work with for some of our outbound, we are actually able to hyper tailor a graphic that's going to have their name. It's going to be super customized, and do that to stand out via like a LinkedIn message or via an email. We have the ability to now like create kind of user or buying persona specific content, where historically just knowing someone's title or name or company, you were going to have to do a lot of additional legwork. So when we think of what Gen AI is really able to do in these instances, and just broader artificial intelligence, you're really able to cater to specific individuals on a more personal basis. So now your messaging, your content is really going to resonate with that unique person. Some of the other things I think about there is really bringing in some of like that prompting, when we think about Gen AI as well, and creating more scalable, models that are going to allow you to ultimately scale out your sales team, verticalize if you want, but really hyper focus. And I think that's one of the most advantageous things that we've seen thus far.
Yeah, I like that you bring up scalability. I think a lot of people are kind of stuck in this, like, if you were to ask just the average employee, how are you using AI? They'd probably be like, yeah, sometimes I run my charts through ChatGPT and get a summary. It's really like one-off cases. Like I wanted to write a blog, so I gave it this prompt and now I'm revising it. What kind of advice do you have in making it more strategic and long-term rather than just these one-offs?
Fantastic question. So when we think of your use case there, right, most people are, opening up ChatGPT to pump out a quick email or a blog or something along, that lines. You really want to think about the broader applications to the business, right? So I look at things as a sales leader, such as like forecasting and predictive models and things of that nature. There is so much that AI can do when it comes to giving you more intelligence into some of the really big ticket items that are critical to your business's growth. So we use Gong by way of example for conversational intelligence and things of that nature. I'm able to really quickly now go in and query on any conversation or just in general in that tool, and across my sales reps, I'm able to quickly identify conversations that included this, specific item. I'm able to, identify real opportunities and, certain maybe trigger words and things that we need to look for. And for me, when we think of scale from that application, the more people I hire, it is quite literally, impossible to clone myself and sit on all these sales calls or listen to them all in general. So being able to have access to, an AI tool like that allows me at scale now to monitor my reps, pick up on certain cues, even highlight certain words and phrases that I want to, bring to the forefront for my own quick read and knowledge. So super, super scalable, but it needs to be done the right way.
Yeah, no, I love kind of that insight that you shared of how you're using it as leadership. I think kind of on the flip side, you have your team who may be feeling some hesitation or like apprehensive towards AI. How do you address like potential concerns from your sales team about AI replacing human roles? And how do you position AI as a tool to enhance rather than replace their work?
Well, it's funny you mentioned that, because I think even outside of sales, right? The second that the buzzword, AI came into place, everyone immediately starts thinking of robots and that are going to take their jobs. And I think the critical thing that we need to think about is looking at the broader lens of RevOps, right? The goal is to ultimately automate, digitize, but really build that around the customer experience. Now, customers are looking more and more to, have some of that kind of autonomous buying where they are able to gather the data and requirements and things they need. But at the end of the day, especially if we're talking about enterprise-sized clients and deals, they aren't going to click, buy on a website and ultimately move forward because they saw this great AI generated content that was, tailored to their needs. There is still going to need to be that human element. So I really think of the augmentation piece there, right? You're really augmenting what you're doing with the digitization, with the artificial intelligence, with that human element. So you're a bit more strategic, I think, about where you're having those, we'll call them intervention points, if you will, and you're injecting some of that human experience to help facilitate that overall buying cycle. So at the end of the day, right, you're really just trying to simplify things here. And if you remove AI and humans, right, it's just how do we make our customers have a frictionless, seamless, enjoyable buying experience. And I think that's one thing people really need to, keep in the back of their minds when you're thinking about any piece of technology, or whether it's AI or something else, is we are connecting with buyers and our goal is to give them the most incredible experience ever and ultimately, right, close the deal. So it's putting all those pieces together at the right moments.
Yeah, one thing I recently heard and someone kind of explained it as was AI is great, but it's kind of just taking care of like these monotonous tasks so that you then have time to add in this like personalized human touch so that
Mhm.
sellers have that time to sell. What are kind of like your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think, looking at that overall experience, people need to just think about the business outcome for any technology that or anything that you're bringing into the mix. And I think that a lot of people, I mean, I can't tell you how many times I've gotten on the phone and someone goes, "Are you using AI? We really want to get AI." And I'm like, "Well, what do you want AI to do?"
So
So like, yeah, so I think that's one of the missing pieces that I see more often than not
mm,
is people aren't keeping in mind the core business outcomes that they're looking to achieve. And that goes both internally and externally, right? If I'm utilizing AI, I'm likely doing that to try and alleviate some, time intensive tasks that free up my sales reps to do more of the critical thinking and the strategic work. Whereas when I look at some of my customers, right, they are also looking for a similar experience, but they may have an AI initiative, that's going on within the organization that rolls up to their the bigger digital transformation, initiative. And it's just funny how these buzzwords just get tossed around the, meeting rooms
yeah.
when no one just sits down and says, like, what do we want to accomplish and how are we going to best accomplish that? Like the root of that does not change.
Yeah, I mean, you bring up a lot of really great points. You kind of touch on some like challenges, you touched on some use cases and some tools. So, how do you ensure that your AI tools are aligned with your broader revenue strategy? And what steps do you take to measure that ROI?
Yeah, so it's one of the bigger challenges, I must honestly say, and it takes many different shapes and forms because first and foremost, AI is only going to be as good as the quality of right your data, of the process and the structure that you're putting it into. So I think a lot of people try to overload themselves with all these pretty shiny new AI centric tools where ultimately they don't have the right process or structure in place to start. So when you think about, I mentioned before, trying to use AI for things like lead scoring or forecasting and things of that nature. Well, if your reps that are putting in the data on opportunities and things of that nature aren't, accurately or sufficiently doing their job, me as the guy that's trying to utilize the AI to ultimately get this type of insight and data, I'm going to struggle. So I think you really need to take a look at that kind of end-to-end process. I think one of the first steps, right, when you think of the overall RevOps cycle, is taking a look at your data, identifying what your KPIs are to your business. Now you need to match those metrics up, look back at that data that you ultimately are collecting and say, am I even collecting that information? One. Two, if I am, is it living across these maybe disparate systems? I mean, we think of the average, tech stack nowadays. You could have 5, 10, 20, 30 different tools that are all in some way, shape, or form impacting your business and need to communicate to one another in, some type of manner. And more often than not, they're not. So getting all of that right to start is critical. And then you start to map in, as we talked about before, hey, where are we injecting some of these, AI driven experiences for personalization, curated content? Where are we injecting, right, that human element? And you really start to take shape of that, overarching kind of, I like to think of it as a wheel revolving around your client or prospective client. So, the short answer is you need to make sure that, everything is aligned with the overall strategy, that your KPIs are clear, you're collecting the right data, and then you can really start to map that AI into the right moments.
Yeah, no, I like that. I think it's so easy to get caught up in the buzz of AI. And as you said, it's so easy to just like get all these flashy tools that say the AI and kind of like check the box and be like, okay, we now are an AI centric
Oh,
company.
yeah.
But I think you bring up a good point to really like take a step back and focus on the strategy. Because I think what happens is people get all these tools and we're like, okay, what's the return on investment? And they're like,
We have
couldn't
no
tell you.
idea. Exactly, right. And that's why it's so important at the end of the day to know what your critical metrics are for your business. I mean, yes, everyone wants revenue, but what are some of those other key indicators that are going to demonstrate success? You think of, from the sales lens, right? Time and stage, your overall cost of acquisition at the very, very top of the funnel for things of that nature, which flows through, right, all of the leads that you're trying to bring in across AI and these variety of different things. That all loops into your point, right? The overall ROI. So I don't think enough people are focusing on those things. And I really think it's the tip of the iceberg, right? Right now, when we think of what AI and, in general, like RevOps can do, you're starting to see more of these tools that are popping up that, they would call themselves, it used to be sales enablement. Now it's, revenue orchestration or revenue operation management. So you're getting a lot of these different new tools and they're kind of trailblazing, a lot of these paths. So current state, there really isn't like that all-in-one shop that you can just go to. And now it's like, I have the, perfect AI-driven revenue orchestration tool that's going to ultimately do everything, for me. And I just get on the phone, once or twice in the process and close that deal. We're all waiting for the moment that gets here. But until then, you need to take ownership of your data. You need to take ownership of, the process. And for me, that's always the fun part, right? Is kind of building and scaling. And then I can, go out and shop around for what types of solutions are going to help drive that initiative forward.
Yeah, I was talking with Jessica. She's head of marketing at Jasper, and she brought up a really interesting point that you kind of touched on. She was saying how, like, right now, AI is really just human to telling AI what to do, and then you have to then get involved again to make sure that it's right. And you're like, maybe one day it'll get to the point where it's AI to human, but right now it is still very human centric, and we do need to build out those processes.
Precisely. And like, I think outside of maybe some of the orchestrated, right, chatbots, when we think of, right, going through, natural language processing and what's historically been built in there, which obviously is now incorporating some of the AI, you can set up, right, some of these kind of paths that are already going to be guided where you don't necessarily need that, significant human input. But to your point, there is some level of human input that needs to go into that AI. So even if, the chatbot or whatever it may be pops up and says, hey, okay, you've kicked it off, but if you don't get a response, where are we going? So you're spot on that front.
Yeah. So, I mean, what advice would you give to other CROs who are considering adopting AI to scale their sales operations and drive revenue growth?
Great question. So I think first and foremost, you really want to just look at this with a strategic mindset.
Mm.
We've talked about it a couple of times already, so I don't want to beat a dead horse here, but you really don't want to just adopt AI for the sake of adopting AI. There are a million different applications that you can probably think of, and there are a lot of fantastic solutions that are out there that are ultimately going to allow you to do that. But at the end of the day, you need to select tools that are going to align specifically with your business objectives and that are also scalable, which is a point you brought up earlier, as you grow. So I think one of the other things is senior leadership tends to get in a bit of a vacuum when they start thinking about these tools that they want to implement and invest in. So the next thing you know, all of the frontline users, right, the individuals that are absolutely essential to growing your business, you show up and you're like, hey, we're rolling out this new tool, like get with the program, and hopefully it works. You need to involve them in both the implementation process, even, depending on the size of your organization, maybe consider bringing in like a little committee to be involved in that evaluation and selection process. If there are opportunities to, do any type of freemium trials or, even pilot programs, things of that nature really will go a long way. Because one of my fears, right, is that a lot of these, companies out there are just throwing money at AI, and it's going to be very similar to, when I think of like, coming into a new organization as a CTO and saying, I'm going to bring in my ERP system and all my tech stack from my last place. And it's just like a revolving door where you go through, crazy implementation. It never gets fully adopted. You have all these different issues. I have a fear that you're going to start to see some of that leak over now that we're trying to take more of a, I don't want to say technology centric, but technology led buying experience through this digital, sales cycle we're trying to create. I think CROs and, sales leaders are maybe that next wave to fall victim to just not really being strategic. And once again, focusing on the business outcomes, but also really encompassing their, team in that decision-making process and the implementation and onboarding experience.
Yeah, no, you bring up a lot of really great points. One thing I kind of wanted to ask you and just pick your brain on is if you have any advice when evaluating tech to see if it is a good fit.
Absolutely. So once again, be very, very clear in what your objectives are that you're looking to accomplish. The second piece that I think a lot of people forget about, because you get so excited about all of the different bells and whistles and things this tech can do, and I've seen it happen way too frequently, is you don't think about the onboarding experience or the service layer and the support. So you really do want that white glove service, especially if you're a smaller organization trying to adopt tools. Someone needs to own this tool, and someone is going to need to, be responsible for configuring it, making updates, any changes. There are solutions out there where they have a very strong service layer that from the day you sign up until your last dying breath as a client, they're going to hold your hand every step of the way. There are others that they'll give you, 5 calls as part of your onboarding. And then if it's not the way you want it, they're either going to nickel and dime you for additional support, or you're on your own. And now you're trying to be, the tech guy. So I think you really want to make sure that you're checking all the boxes, and don't be afraid to take 10, 20 calls. It's, one of my, I don't know, I would guess it's a little bit of a fault, but also a blessing, where any major purchase that I make, even in my own personal life, I could be ordering something on Amazon. I'm going to look at 15 different products and look at reviews and things of that nature. But I feel like a lot of people, you see 1 or 2 tools, you get excited, and then you just jump right in. So I think don't be afraid to really take your time, embrace the evaluation process, and make sure that you're landing with the right partner, because the tech can be great, but if you don't really have the partnership from them from a support level too, you might be fighting an uphill battle.
No, I love that. Don't get caught up in the hype.
Yes,
I
exactly.
think that's really good advice. I think it's so easy. We're all so busy to just be like, I just need a solution and I need it quickly. So I'm just willing to like sign it off and have it magically work. But oftentimes it's not that simple.
Or it's the biggest, shiniest name that's out there. You're like, well, it's got to be fine to just go with them anyway. And I think, a lot of people have fallen victim to that too. So do your due diligence and do it thoroughly.
That. Great. So as we come up on time, I would love to just see what you're kind of most excited about with AI, what you're seeing, kind of trends, like what is kind of piquing your interest as we finish up this year.
Yeah. So For me personally, one of my biggest objectives right now is ramping up, our partner ecosystem, scaling out the sales team. And we're really at that fun, inflection point where we're seeing, just about that hockey stick level growth.
Yeah.
So for me, I am looking at the broader application of pretty soon I'm not going to be able to touch every single dynamic, of my organization, as much as I'd like. I currently, cover marketing, sales, partnerships, like that all rolls up to me,
Yeah.
customer success as well. So I'm constantly looking at how can we create a just overall better buying experience? How can we create long lasting, partnerships, long lasting clients, utilizing exciting new tools, and AI is like one of the underlying components there. But my thing is digitization and automation. And I think people have gotten away from some of those keywords because we're so excited about AI, but it's really how can I digitize and automate as much as possible without dropping the ball or, creating any type of negative backlash with our client to actually, create more positive sentiment. So I'm looking at all the underlying pieces there. And like I talked about Gong before as a great, example of how I'm able to now quickly query and search through, every single call that our company has, for example, every piece of data. I have that tied to our forecasting and our pipeline and things of that nature. We're implementing digital sales rooms and deal rooms where, we can have that AI chatbot that sits on there and help them sort, through this digital engagement where certain pieces of information and data lives and bring it to the forefront. So there are all these really cool, wonderful things that are going to help to streamline that overall buying experience. And then, of course, internally, I'm looking at that scalability as well of how do I clone myself so that we can get visibility. Something I didn't talk about too is training, right?
Yeah.
There's a lot of great applications now where there's that AI component of, providing some of that conversational, hey, a competitor came up, well, here's your battle card, right? So there's so many great things. I'm trying to stay super focused once again, though, on like my business objectives, which is, currently get ready to hire a bunch of people. So, some of that training, the digital sales room, those things are really, top of mind for me right now. And obviously maximizing the use of the AI within those solutions.
Yeah. No, I loved all the things you've touched on during this chat. I mean, like, just focus on scalability, really know what your goals are. I mean, so many great little nuggets in here. I'm sure a lot of our listeners will walk away with something new. And I think also just remembering to it's okay to slow down, to speed up.
Mm-hmm.
At the end of the day, know what tools you're signing up for. Don't get caught up in the hype.
Yep. If you swim too fast, you'll be drowning out in that ocean. So take it easy and make a pit stop at a buoy if you have to, or bring a life raft.
Yeah, I love that. So anything exciting going on at Bedrock that we can highlight, give a little shout out to?
Yeah, I mean, really at Bedrock right now, one of my favorite projects is we are first and foremost rolling out a brand new UI and UX. We've had some incredible traction on the partnership front. So we're just bringing in these really great innovative solutions and partners, which are critical, in my personal opinion, to scaling success. And we're also working on some AI models ourselves, right, from the internal perspective. So, we think of utilizing some of the AI components to underpin like intelligent document processing or, our big thing, that we do on the accounts payable side or recovery audits and things like that. How do we get more proactive in identifying potential overpayments or duplicatements at the point of issuance for our clients to, help alleviate working capital leakage? So we're also monitoring all of the developments in AI, taking our time responsibly too for where we're implementing that, because you really want to be careful with what you're doing when you're being trusted with your client's data. So, lot of exciting stuff, but I would say the partnerships, the new tech, really is taking a lot of my focus, but it's super exciting.
Yeah, love to hear it. So if people want to get in touch with you and continue the conversation, what are the best ways for them to get in contact with you?
The easiest way, first, find me on LinkedIn and shoot me a DM. It's Devin Noonan at Bedrock there. Also, my email address is my first name, DEVIN, at mybedrock.com. I always welcome a conversation, whether you're looking to buy Bedrock solutions, whether you're looking to just chop it up about, AI, revenue, or just say, hey, I'm all about the network and the connections and helping people as often as I can. So I absolutely welcome any, correspondence, and I hope to hear from you too.
Great. Well, thank you again, Devin. It's been a pleasure having you on.
Absolutely. Thanks so much, Jenny. Take it easy, everyone.